back into the early 60s when an earnest, young, skinny, and an innocent, young, beautiful northern PE teacher were flirting with each other at choir practice.
Outrageous!
What's your name, so I can send you a Christmas card? Said our leather chemist. And a little, replied our trim gym mistress. Right, just a note I discovered to my delight when Google arrived 15 years ago. Delittle was actually an attempt by some Dolittles of this world, and this was before the push me pull use, to make themselves seem posher and more French, to disguise the origin of the Doolittle name, which was actually of the idle village layabout. Anyway, Delittle, she replied. Well, that's unusual. Wouldn't it be much easier if you were called Smith? Came the legendary response. So, ladies and gentlemen, 50-something years later, we're gathered here today as a result of a rather imaginative, smooth response to cover up my father's poor spelling. Anyway, Mum's response was a maybe. And then young Roger journeyed to Australia to push back the boundaries of leather technology in the colonies, on a promise that if he should feel the same way about young Anne in years to come, in a year's time, he should ask again, and she may consider simplifying her name. 2 years, which he did, obviously longer than you'd expected. But, so while Roger was in Australia, he proposed by phone.
Cheap rate after 6 o'clock.
It was much more expensive in those days. And then Walter, Roger's dad, was then tasked with buying an engagement ring, which he did by going to exactly the same jewellers, Halford in Northampton, to buy exactly the same ring that he bought for his own wife Molly 30 years ago.
If it's good enough for her.
Nobody can accuse the Smith men of being fickle flibberty-gibbets when it comes to the grand romantic gestures on the marriage proposals by phone or on the jewellery front. If my wife was here today, and she's not, because she's got a back injury, then
picking up the ring.
I know I would also second that as well.
I haven't asked them. It would probably come across as being cheeky or impertinent, but they probably hadn't spent much time together by the time Roger came back for the wedding at the end of '62, for the wedding in January '63. In those days, Australia was a long way away, and in the words of one former English football player when describing Italy, it was like a foreign country. No FaceTime, Skype, just letters, loads and loads of letters. Obviously the best spelt ones going from north to south. Some of the wedding party of the 12th of January 1963, Dringhouses in York, are no longer with us, and I'd like to raise our glasses to Eileen and Jeff, Molly and Walter, and Mum's dear sister Sue. So if you'd like to raise your glasses.
Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers. But the rest of them are here, so please, after 50 years, can we have a wedding photo reunion? So we've obviously got the bride and groom, so if you'd just like to please assemble in front of this table here for a 50-year reunion wedding photograph. So bride and groom, please, best man and 2 bridesmaids. Thank you very much.
Wearing the same stuff as they were wearing years ago.
Chris is
No red velvet dresses this time. White knots.
Lily.
Oh, I don't want to be in the wedding.
Say something funny. No, say something funny. Say something funny.
I'm sorry.
No, it's alright. It's fine. Oh, Splendid. Here comes the bride.
Okay, that's enough. Come on. So here we are, 50 years later. I picked up two themes here for the rest of my speech that have been important interests in bonding their lives together. Singing and sport. So,
Not booze and food.
I'm worried about the third one.
As I've said, my parents met at choir practice, so obviously they must have felt a certain frisson about the whole singing thing that I must admit never happened to me at choir practice. St Matthew's singers, Earls Barton singers, the Bart Choir, Wellingborough singers, the Wellingborough School singers, the Church Choir, the Earls Barton singers Part 2, to name but 7. That's a lot of singing. So that's the singing done. On the sporting front, I could probably narrow it down to 3 sports: tennis, rugby and golf. So somebody wants it even louder. Okay, that's fine. Yeah. Okay, is that better? Great. Okay. You missed the best half. I'm sorry. Okay, I'll start again. As already mentioned, it was Mum's PE background that brought this Yorkshire girl to Northampton in the first place. But tennis above all other... sorry, I wasn't this bad in the first half, by the way. But tennis above all other sports was the family game when I was a boy. Dad was the chairman of the village tennis club and Mum was the coach, and for a while it seemed like an all-consuming family business. One of the many things Mum can be proud of are the hundreds of adults today that grew up in and around Earls Barton that were given their first sporting and social interaction outside school by Mrs. Smith at Park Street. Most weekdays, evenings during the spring, summer and autumn would be given up voluntarily to coaching hundreds of youngsters. Tournaments would be held rewarding sportsmanship, most improved backhand, the cleanest white socks, rather than reward winning and penalising losing. We, of course, at the time mocked her non-competitive, inclusive ways, way before professional educationalists adopted this as the norm, only to be ridiculed again by the political correctness gone mad again. In our hearts, of course, we knew she was right, and we were proud. You ask anyone who had a young family in Earls Barton in the 70s and 80s, the village tennis club was at the heart and soul of the village. That was and is in a very large part down to our mum. However, if there was ever a row in the house, it was about anything, it was always about the bloody tennis club. Always. Normally because Mum had agreed to take on even more coaching and Dad was cross that people were asking too much of her. However, the tennis club wasn't all about that. There were also beer, skittles and friends. Mum and Dad made some great friendships at the club, some of which last today and are represented here tonight. During the 70s, the Earls Barton Tennis Club party scene was where it was at. The Evitts, the Chacksfields, the Williams and the Smiths were at the epicentre. The parties were legendary, going round the room through the legs of all the furniture to name but one of the crazy things that they used to get up to after the Watness party seconds had been open. Apparently my father's party piece was to stand on his head, sing God Save the Queen and drink a pint of beer.
Let's do it! Let's do it! Come on, Roger!
I know, it sounds like an episode of Terry and Jew. Dad's biggest sporting passion was and is rugby. He made sure that Pittards, where he was a director, was a corporate sponsor at Twickenham and Murrayfield. He was also an avid armchair-thumping England supporter. Woe betide any small child that got between the TV and Dad on a home international weekend. I know they are proud of Chris's achievements on the pitch, although not necessarily always off the pitch. As they are of Richard's achievements on the court, as opposed to his appearances in court. Tish keeps the family involvement going with rugby by managing a junior side that she puts a lot of effort and dedication into. But since the retirement and the end of tennis, golf has been the activity of choice, with new good friends and holidays. Sadly, Mum has been off injured for the past few seasons, but she has been back on the course recently for a cheeky 9 holes now and then. But I could go on and talk about Dad's amazing career in the global leather and shoe industry, Mum's lifelong passion. That wasn't comedy, by the way.
You should ask the customers that question.
Mum's lifelong passion for education, dance, drama, and working with those that need extra help in and out of the system. Mum, a working mum, raising 4 kids while supporting Dad in his demanding career, taking him around the world and away for weeks at a time. But I won't, otherwise there'll be nothing left to talk about at the Diamond anniversary. or funerals, whichever. Okay, I won't do it. Anyway, I'd like you to read on that. Please raise your glasses to my mum and dad, to Anne and Roger.
Cheers. And Roger. Cheers, cheers, cheers.
And now I give my mum to get her own back now. So,